Hi guys, Hengist here from House of Hengist Comics. A big welcome back to the channel. And today it is Blitzkrieg episode 16, Panic at Gize. First the news, and let's quickly reacquaint ourselves with the map, the overall operational map, and we can see here the progress. What we've got here is a closer map with the day by day for the German penetration through Luxembourg and Belgium. And this is our situation map, and we're in the center here. We can see the Germans basically are looking to the air. It's always the air, as the Luftwaffe have complete domination. They're Stuckering targets any opportunity they can see, as this black and white aerial photo shows. Columns, anything, including civilians. It's all part of the strategy. Whilst in Paris, nothing seems untoward. But some groups are very nervous and very concerned. Whilst Rommel, well, he's not interested in the Paris news. He just wants to keep his armour moving, his panzers at a rate, continuing forward. And they tend to adopt either a Blitzkrieg or colonne formation when they're moving. There's close support between the infantry and the armour. And basically, where the infantry are lagging behind, they've also got duties. The bicyclists, well, they continue to move forward at a pace, and some even refer to this as the Tour de France, as we've shown before. In fact, some soldiers seem to be having a very sort of holiday-like time, and the news is reporting all sorts of different stories. But really, from the war correspondent's perspective on the front line, where he's seeing the action, the soldiers are looking exhausted and tired. This isn't quite Poland, but it's tough. Look at the damage that some of these tanks, as we saw in the last episode, the refitting and refueling and all of the problems that go with that. So let's look at the Belgian forces today. What have they got? Well, this is an interesting one. We've got 4 small companies all together within the same hectare, so to speak, trying to fight it off. Each company, we've got basically 2 infantry, 1 mechanized force of tanks and 1 of artillery, but it's all juxtapositioning with one another. No one really knows what their orders are. It's to reflect the complete chaos that is basically descending upon the Belgians as they try and conduct a retreat. And retreating is never easy, especially for these green troops, so they'll be confident trained. They may have some tanks. The Germans, however, well, the German forces, they're as strong as they always are, but again lack a lot of artillery because it's jammed up. But it's Kradshutzen again, these wonderful motorbike troops. You know, it is very a fast-paced march that they're on. They're being pushed forwards at all times. Some are exhausted. Many of the photos suggest that they are, you know, dealing with any obstacle that they encounter. We've also got Kurt Kurland, once again, this time with some 6 Rads and his 8 Rad command vehicle. There are tanks as well. All of these forces are confident veteran at the cutting edge, the spear point, the Schwerpunkt, basically, of German attack. So it's P1s and P2s in action. Rommel will be looking on from a distance after the action last week. So let's get into the research and the mission, and here's today's map. Well, here's the map, a classic crossroads with Lawrence Farm and the Chateau Gize in front of it. As you can see here, we use a lot of images that we take off the internet. This we then sort of replicate in the set, so to speak. So it's very important to look at Google Maps and get an idea of what we are trying to build here. Gize Chateau is a dummy, basically, objective. The Belgians won't know that. The 2 main objectives are basically further down the crossroads. The Belgians will be confused and in chaos. We'll have 4 companies all deployed. A card will determine whether they're defending or retreating. So it'll be really chaotic, and the Germans will seek to exploit that. Here's the orchard here with the plough. They'll be going straight past that for the objectives, but they'll be coming on blind. They have all the civilians at the farm. That could be a problem too. We've got residue of the airstrike. There is German air in the sector, and a big rye field here, which could be very useful for the Belgians. Here's the deployment map. As you can see, the Germans will be coming on from the south, the Belgians in the north. So tactically, the Belgians have got to try and hold it all together. Right, let's get into the rules. We're using Achtung Panzer as usual. Again, very deck driven, this type of action, and it should be very entertaining. Right guys, let's get into the battle action, and the weather's good. The first company that goes down is the Belgian infantry that deploys as far as the Gize farm, the dummy objective, they didn't know. On the left flank we've got the cavalry and mobile elements, they're holding the hill. And on the centre, and this is the position the artillery want, two gun batteries, one horse artillery. We also have the van, the tankettes and tank destroyers. Here's the map, and this shows the deployment. None of the Belgians know what each order they have for their allied formations, so this is quite interesting. Immediately the light armoured cars and Kradshutzen push out in echelon, fanning out, as we can see here. There's a lot of firepower here, as you can see. The second platoon moves straight up the road towards the orchard as the infantry push through the light wood. They open fire immediately on Gize farm, and there's bullets flying all over the place. Casualties begin to fall. Civilians are panicking. The heavy machine guns are located in the rubble, so to speak, of the village. Immediately the Germans seize, or try and attempt to seize, Gize. This they do first by bringing down a huge amount of firepower. The infantry are moving up, getting ready to assault, as we can see the ambulance in the distance to support it. As the panzers split their forces and effectively going for the central road, occupy the crossroads, and also move their light tanks to the right flank. Here we see the attack, huge amount of firepower coming. The Belgian tanks, on the other hand, basically have only got an infantry platoon, but no one knows what's going on at this stage. And effectively the Belgians basically have to get off the table by 6 if they're under retreat orders, but no one's moved. So no coordination, as we have the first assault that goes in, and it's a pretty brutal assault, having suppressed the poor Belgians, but they fight pretty well up and down the stairs. Eventually, however, the Germans secure this quite easily. It was confident trained versus reluctant trained at this stage. They occupy Chateau Gize and basically fill it with their infantry, as their Kradshutzen come under mortar fire for the first time, and they start to take casualties. The tankettes, well, they're having struggles and problems trying to fire on the Panzer 1s and 2s that are moving up, but their infantry opens fire as well, supporting into a hail of basically machine gun fire as it breaks out of the ploughed field towards the livestock. 2 tankettes are basically destroyed by the Panzer 2s. They didn't stand a chance, and it's quite unlucky. But then things start to change, because the infantry company on the right flank decides to pull out. Yes, it's got withdrawal orders and starts to move back. And at the same point, a sudden other decision, so do the tanks. The tanks decide that they have to pull out because their orders are to withdraw. This leaves a huge quandary, as one of them bogs down in a cabbage field, which is a bit of a disaster, and the Belgian infantry start pulling out. This leads to all sorts of recriminations on the other flank. But their heavy machine guns are covering them, and they effectively wipe out that Kradshutzen platoon that had come far too close. The other one is anchored down in the walled area. But their mortars open fire on the anti-tank guns for the cavalry company, which is on their hill. But they're just trying to suppress and hold that down. The ambulance is moving up to the front to support the infantry. And as you can see, the cavalry company don't move. They haven't moved at all. Now, it's down to these 2 companies to effectively hold the 2 objectives, but neither the artillery, they're unable to move, and the cavalry are so far over on the left-hand flank they just can't get across the table. So the position looks really untenable, as the panzers basically just continue to keep fire on the cavalry and keep them down. But in the centre, what we've got is basically the other Panzer II platoon moving forward. The 8 Rads and Kurland have taken damage again. It's his 4th action, literally in 2 days. His vehicle looks as though it needs a respray at this stage. But then a card appears, and that gives artillery on line, which opens fire and basically hits and destroys one Panzer I tank, sending the other tanks scurrying back. However, the armoured cars continue to press, and the tanks soon rejoin the fray. There's a huge amount of fire, as effectively the Belgians are struggling to work out what they can do, when another card appears, and it's an airstrike, this time by 2 Me-110s, which comes straight in on the hill. Anti-aircraft fire, it opens fire with just machine guns, but it's totally ineffective, as bombs rain down and basically cause huge casualties and disruption all over that hill, with such a tight complex Meanwhile, a lot of the civilians just haven't moved. They're in complete panic as artillery's flying all over the place and landing everywhere. And the Belgians begin to pull out. Their medics are trying to treat both the dead, wounded soldiers and civilians, because the Germans open fire on the civilians. There's a lot of casualties here. They get caught in an awful crossfire, and basically because of their proximity within 6 inches take a lot of casualties. We've also got now the final push by the Panzer IIs, which basically drive up the road supporting the armoured cars. And basically both the Belgian companies, the tanks and infantry, have now withdrawn away from the objective. They can't stay there any longer. They've lost 2 platoons already and 3 tanks, and only 1 Panzer I has been destroyed. So it's a German victory, guys, and a fantastic game. Well, what can we say in postscript? I think this really worked with the 4 commanders really unaware of what was going on, and there was genuine chaos and confusion. As you could see from the map, 1 and 4 were the ones that pulled out, i.e. the tanks and the infantry, leaving the objective completely open. The artillery couldn't move across, and the cavalry were so far away they couldn't get across. They were pinned down by the tanks. And again, it's these light tanks, the Panzer Is and Is. The Panzer I are really a training tank, but with those machine guns, they give such arcs of fire, and there's so much firepower, especially against infantry armed forces, really. The Kradshutzen advanced a little bit too rapid on the left flank and suffered for it. But saying that, you know, Kurland's men again pushed forward and were successful. As you can see from the Panzer attacks and the divisions here, it's time to explore more of the myths, and we thoroughly recommend Lloyd Clark's Blitzkrieg book. We've also got Dingo Dogs taking to the air in a few episodes' time. He'll be attacking the Meuse on a sort of death mission. This was really nasty for the RAF air crews. And that's going to be probably hard cheese, as McDonald would say. But our freedom always comes from sacrifice, guys, and I hope you'll stay with the episodes. I hope you have a go with these type of scenarios, and in the meantime, stay safe, stay lucky, and stay well. Over and out from me. Bye for now.